Welcome back to the Orthodox Ethos. I'm Father Peter here, and this is a special edition of the Orthodox Ethos Extended Podcast. We have a tremendous gift to us. Well, a good friend and a very talented director is joining us to talk about her new film, Moses the Black. So stay tuned for a very interesting interview and introduction to the new film. Yelena Popovic, thanks for joining us here on the Orthodox Ethos Podcast. It's a joy to have you.
Thank you, Father. It's a true pleasure, my honor that you're having me. It's great to see you.
Good to see you as well. You're not nearby, but we know each other here nearby at the monastery. You're near the Holy Land of Greece, and it's good that you woke up early there to join us. We appreciate your sacrifice, but we're most interested in learning about the new film. We're all familiar, I'm sure most of everybody who's going to be watching tonight is familiar with the tremendous job you did with Man of God, which the Orthodox community especially was grateful for. The projection, the sharing of the faith through the life of Saint Nektarios of Yelena was a tremendous gift to the world and to Orthodoxy. And so we're all wondering, what's this new film going to be about? It's obviously a very different kind of film. And it is going to be something I think that's going to reach a whole new audience, obviously. And so we're really excited to hear from you about the history, how you got here, what inspired you to make it, what it was like making it. What was your goal? And there's a lot of questions we have. And we're going to, hopefully, if it's okay with you, we're going to open it up to questions at some point after we have our discussion, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
And we can field some questions from our pious Orthodox audience. Now, as Orthodox Christians, we're not so familiar with a lot of the folks who are in this film. So we're interested in you introducing some of them to us and your thought process. Maybe we start with how did you think of it? You're the writer and director, so you're the producer from the get-go. What inspired you to make this film? What was? Do you have some experiences that brought you to the point where you said, "I'm going to do this"?
It's a very good question, Father. Thank you. I think there is a huge parallel here between how I got inspired to do Man of God and also the film called Saint Moses the Black. I didn't plan on it, even with, as I many times said, it wasn't something that I always wanted to, at one point in my life, if God had permitted to make films to inspire people to get closer to God and to help people with the work I'm doing. Obviously, that's only possible if God blesses the project. So originally it was Man of God. It was the story of Saint Nektarios that really sparked something special in my heart, even though I read many saints and I love many saints. Like today, for example, I mean, not in Serbian church in Mount Athos, we have a great saint, Saint Sava the Sanctified, which I love very much. So I read a lot about saints, and I always did. So it's not something that I'm not familiar with. It. I really love it. It's inspiring.
You're on the right podcast. You're on the right podcast. As I say again and again, almost every night, read the lives of the saints. They're the gospel in practice throughout the ages. And so I think that's one of the reasons why we're so excited about this, because you're talking about another saint, but in a different way. So we're really intrigued. But yeah, that's great. It's awesome.
Thank you. So with Saint Nektarios, even though I read so many saints, when I read about him, was that 2012, and I said this many times before, I just felt like I can't explain this. It was something that was very close to my heart. His story was on some levels personal, and I felt writing the film. At that point, you know how it is. I wrote many scripts. Not much came became a reality, because it's a very, very difficult, as you know, Father, to put anything out as an independent filmmaker, not let alone a film about a saint. But with God's providence, with the help of Saint Nektarios and prayers of Yelena Ephraim from I call him Saint Ephraim from Arizona.
You do well. You do well.
That because he gave me a blessing for originally for Man of God. I know that had carried me through a lot of obstacles, and eventually it became a reality. Before I was about to shoot, it was a couple of years. We weren't shooting yet. Man of God. I read about Saint Moses, the Black, and I had that similar like spark that it ignited something in me. And I remember vividly that as I was reading about his life, and it's quite straightforward. You know, he lived in the 4th century. He died in 405 AD, and so we have what we have written about him. You know, obviously he was a disciple of Saint Nektarios of Egypt. You know, and even if in Philokalia there were some sayings of Saint Moses he's mentioned, as if we read it carefully. So he's a very well known Holy Father. But so I read about him, but it was that particular ending. How this is when this something possessed me to do this was when I read that he was 70 now at that point, a man who started as a very violent a gang leader in the land of Egypt, and had this sudden change of heart when he was actually running away from the authorities, because even though he's done a lot of bad things, he was very violent. At one point, he killed a government official, and this seemed to be one of the stories that sort of makes sense. And then there was a bounty on his head, so they were chasing after him at that point to execute him. So what he was thinking, you know, where to hide, where nobody would think about looking for him, was the monastery where Abba Isidoros, Saint Isidoros, was an abbot of this monastery. And at the time, interestingly enough, monasteries, there weren't like structures. It was like, if you look at the Saint Anthony the Great cave, those were caves. It was an open space. It was very austere, very ascetic. You know, I think later on, they maybe in the 5th century they started building more of a structures and walls around. But at the time, it was really, for people to imagine, it was just a desert, and they had they were basically living outdoors in the caves. So he hid somewhere there. It was far away from the community, thinking nobody was gonna look for him. And it was precisely then, and nobody can now say exactly what happened, but we know he had this sudden change of heart. He was able to God opened the mind of his heart to see that his soul was in danger. He probably felt this fear. And this is not unusual. When I did the research about this, people that lived, gangsters or people in the violent lifestyles, when they face death, it's very often then that something happens to them, that they realize that they really need to change. So it was in this particular moment that he realized that his soul was in danger. They usually are not afraid of dying, like gangsters, people. They go through a lot of soldiers, these situations, and they kind of just they're not afraid of getting either shot at or knifed at the time. But sometimes it can happen that they face that, and all of a sudden they have this awakening. And I think this is what happened. That's what I believe. What happens to Moses? So his experience is fear that he hadn't experienced before. It was different kind of fear. It was a fear for his soul. And this is where he, when they say knocked on the door, he found the abbot, the monks, and he was very honest. He told them, "I am the I'm Musa, Moses, the robber, and he said, I'm not asking you to. I would love to join the monastery to repent for my sins. I'm not asking you to hide me from the authorities. This was a very important thing that he said, because they're searching for me. But I really would like you to help me to save my soul. And this is where Abba Isidore told him, okay, well, just wait outside, wait there for a few days. We'll provide the food and water. And if it's God's will, if nobody comes looking for you, then you can enter the monastery. And what was incredible was that he just, from that moment on, this violent man, which we call a great sinner, just never looked back. He just became obedient to his spiritual father, abandoned completely his past life, and for many years struggled with his many passions that he had acquired because of the way he was living his life previously. And at one point, it became a priest. He was ordained a priest, and later on became, at the age of 74 or 75, this is what really touched me. He became an abbot of the monastery, and he had now about 70 disciples, out of whom many were his ex-gang members, and that became monks. And he was very well respected as a spiritual father. At that point, many distinguished people in the land of Egypt were looking for him for spiritual advice. They weren't searching for him to take his life anymore, but to ask him for spiritual help. And at the age of 74, 75, I believe, he, one day as he was sitting with his disciples, he stood up and he told everybody that the robbers were coming and they had to flee because they were going to come now. He says, I can see them. They're on their way and they're going to kill everybody here. And his disciples were confused, and he said, well, what about you, Father? And this is what completely blew my mind. He said, I've been waiting for this moment all my life because I want to glorify my Lord and my Savior and his words that who takes the sword must die by the sword. So this is something that I wanted, that I've been praying for. But you don't have to go through this. So please flee and go and hide. So majority of the monks, they fled, and 7 of them stayed with him. In the last few moments before the martyrdom happened, one of the monks, probably by the providence of God, was supposed to witness what was going to happen. He hid somewhere nearby to avoid the martyrdom, and he did witness the martyrdom of Saint Moses the Black and the 6 other holy martyrs. And then when he came out of the hiding, when the robbers and murderers were gone, not only that he had witnessed his brothers martyred, but he saw our Lord Jesus giving crown of glory to each one of them. And this to me was like, I don't know if this is something, you see, I come from, there are some of my ancestors, particularly a man named Marko Popovic, Marko Miljanov, and people can research this. He lived during the Ottoman occupation of Serbia and Montenegro at the time, and he has written many books. After he was, there was a bounty of his head. The Ottomans had bounty on his head because he was a great warrior. And he is my great grandfather, and even my father has his name on his tomb. He's very well known for his bravery. And one of the things, when he was about 50 or 60 years old, he learned how to read and write. And he said, the reason I learned how to read and write, it wasn't because I wanted to educate myself nor did I wanted glory, because it was nothing, I never cared about that, meaning vanity. He said, but I wanted to write the stories of this incredible men and women that were willingly and joyfully going to most painful deaths for God and for their fellow man.
Mm.
That are this is the opening of one of the books, and these are very so. I was always fascinated by people that they were simply not afraid to die, even going through extremely painful deaths, and they found that they were looking forward to it with joy, and I just always admire that, and this is something that resonated with me, and I said this is this, and then I thought, well, this story, it's another story that can I believe help people, and maybe I have this urge. The reason I did Man of God, the story that I told, was in order to help those that suffer the most, and I believe it helped people that suffer a lot, to keep their faith, to not give up, to know that Lord is there for us no matter what. And this is another story that I believe can help people that are in very difficult situations. They're doing things that are obviously not good. They live in darkness, and to know that there is forgiveness, that God can transform your life no matter where you're at, that the Lord loves us, and that not only repentance is possible and redemption is possible, but look, Saint Moses the Black not only repented, but he became a great holy father. And so I think that's very, very inspiring and encouraging, especially nowadays. And this is why I wanted to tell this story. And I'm sorry, Father, go ahead.
I was going to say at that point, I wanted to say that I find that many people spiritually, in more, let's say, less extreme cases, but still the same spiritual struggle, is that to get to the point to be able to say I'm ready for death is a tremendous trust in God.
Yes.
And that He has forgiven your sins, and He's defeated death, and there is eternal life. And so you do. I deal with various cases, and there's a commonality of great insecurity today on many levels, right? And many of the sins that are committed out of that base insecurity, and so they're either not able to trust that God has forgiven them. One particular case I deal with right now is he's saying again and again, I don't really think it's possible. I'm so sinful, I can't be forgiven. And that's actually kind of reverse pride. It's a reverse pride. It's an insecurity, and it's a lack of trust in God. So on many levels, whether you're in the inner cities of Chicago or whether you're just struggling in your own little way, that seems to be very common today. It's a very common spiritual paralysis of not really believing and trusting God. And you can see that on so many levels. Like, people have lost trust in institutions, they've lost trust in religious leaders, they've lost trust on many levels. And so, as a life like Saint Moses, I would think that would be a tremendous impact for everyone, whether you're in the inner city and dealing with gang crime or not. It's going to be a universal story.
Well, for me, I'm not I've never been in gangs, or I wasn't.
Of course.
I always openly confess that I didn't start out as somebody who was church going and trying to work my salvation in the way of the way our fathers of the church are teaching us. At one point that started to happen, it was around the year 2000. So I'm obviously, we are all growing and getting closer. How close and where I'm at, only God knows. I hope that I'm making small steps forward, because this is what I really care about, and I'm working on it. So in that sense, I never thought, I just actually have compassion on people's weaknesses, and I know how hard it is. Maybe this is what it is. I know how hard it is to get out sometimes of the situations As a matter of fact, we can't do that ourselves. We need God's help to overcome our sins, overcome our weaknesses, and it's not easy. It's a struggle, but it's possible. With God, all things are possible. And this is that, whether it's really ultimately a spiritual struggle, and I felt that this would. I think there are a lot of great people out there that they just don't know better. They would, and many of the. And so just forgive me not to go back to. I was originally thinking to tell a story of Saint Moses in the 4th century, and obviously there is a certain liberty in his story, because there is so much written about him that one could take a liberty to develop the script. And maybe that was the problem, that I didn't want to go there. Maybe now that for the first time, I'm thinking about it. So I was writing, we know the beginning, the middle, the end, and I kept writing and putting, sticking obviously to the truth of the saint, like I did with Saint Nektarios. I'm not going to compromise that, but you have artistic freedom to make it, to do the justice to Saint Moses the Black. However, when I was writing it in the 4th century, I kept rewriting the treatment quite a few times. I was writing it and writing it and writing it, but I was looking at the material that I wrote. And I had to be honest with myself. I didn't see it. Something bothered me about it. I don't know exactly what it was. And I was surprised. I said, well, I'm so passionate about this. Usually when I'm passionate, like I was a man of God, okay, sure, you have to spend time writing it and making sure it gets better and better. But something whatever was on the page, yes, it was going to be a nice film, but nice is not good enough. This is what I'm saying. I didn't feel like it was going to do justice to Saint Moses. And I felt more like it was going to be maybe more like a History Channel, Hallmark, the way it was coming across. And I didn't feel that was the way to go. So I put it aside and I maybe at the time I thought, well, maybe now I'm about to shoot Man of God. Maybe my creative juices are not really flowing. But even after I finished with Man of God, I continued. And I, even after the movie was finished, the monks from Mount Athos asked me, well, what is your next project? What are you thinking of any other saint? I said, well, I would love to do a film on Saint Moses, and I'm writing. I don't know, it's not really, I'm working on it. And they were, and this is what's interesting, when I felt even more encouraged, and I believe that I have to do this, is when they asked me, would you want to meet Father Timotheos in Athens, who is from Congo, and is now a Greek Orthodox priest, and his sister Nun Tekla has actually painted the icon of Saint Moses the Black after seeing him. And I said, well, and of course, I said, of course, I would love that. Why? That's quite unique situation. So what happened? They put me in touch with Father Timotheos, and I went with my husband to meet with him. It was good my husband came, because he spoke Greek and French. English was not fluent, so my Greek is not that great, but my husband speaks French very well. So we were able to communicate then quite well. And then he explained how him and his whole family became Orthodox back in Congo. He was brought up by two parents. One mother was Protestant and father was Catholic. And what was interesting about Father Timotheos is said he was going to a Catholic school or Catholic monastery where there were Catholic nuns. And it says there was this honest nun that told him, you want to know the real God, go to that church over there, Orthodox Church, which is interesting, right?
Yeah,
and he said, and then I went to hear, and I remember he said walking into the church, and there was a father there, and he was giving this fiery sermon, and he was very moved, and then little by little, he was going there. He became Orthodox, and his parents and his whole family later became Orthodox, including his sister, who at the time when he was a priest in Greece, already ordained priest, was a novice on the island of Kalymnos.
Mm.
And one day, and because and the abbess on I don't know which exact monastery, he just told me it was on the island of Kalymnos, that she was a novice thinking about becoming a nun. And the abbess asked her, because she is quite good at painting the pictures and icons. So she says, "Oh, why don't you paint the icon of Saint Moses the Black?" So at the time novice, now today nun Tekla, she got slightly offended by that, because she says, the Father Timothy said, she said to herself, she went back to her room. She says, "Why, just because I'm Black now I'm supposed to paint the icon of Saint Moses the Black? I'm supposed to know what he looks like. He lived in the 4th century." Like, so in a way, so she was talking to herself and said, "Well, I'm actually not." She almost like told Saint Moses in a way, "I'm not going to do this unless you show me the way you look. I'm not going to paint you." That's something like that. That's what her brother told me. And I don't know how many days later or a month later, I don't have the exact time
Sure.
frame, but one day an elderly Black monk comes into the monastery, walks right straight to her and starts speaking in Swahili, in her own language. And so she's conversing with him, thinking she's just talking to somebody, which obviously she was talking to somebody, but meaning
Like somebody off the street or something, right? Yeah.
And again, she seemed to be slightly, that's what her brother said, she has a little bit of a temper. She's temperamental. So at one point she turned to him and she said, "Excuse me, who are you? What are you doing here? What do you want from me?" And he said to her, "Well, didn't you ask to see me before you wanted to paint my icon? I'm Saint Moses the Black."
Wow.
And I don't know how long it lasted before he vanished before her eyes. And that's
Wow.
when she painted the icon. I always show this. I have it here. Always have. And Father Timotheos hands me the little icon that she has painted of him.
Wow,
And
that is unique. That is not,
when this came into my hands, I mean, now let's think about this. I am.
Can you put it up closer to the camera so we get a look at it? That is unique. That's not like any other icon I've ever seen of St. Moses. That's amazing.
This is what she painted, and he gives it to me, and I'm like, at this point, I feel St. Moses. I'm like Serbian. I came from Los Angeles. I did Man of God. Now I'm getting this in my hands. I know at this point, like, oh, this is gonna turn into a film. I'm like, St. Moses. I don't know why.
The providence here is obvious. You can't just pass it.
I was like, ooh, this is. I really have to work on this, and that's when I again went back to the script. Again, I'm looking at this, and this is interesting. I think your viewers will really appreciate this. I was invited by Yelena Gavril from the monastery of Saint David in Evia to come and visit, because my good friend Nan Gerasima, now Abbess Gerasima from Serbia, is his spiritual daughter, and she said, "Yelena, please, can you come? Yelena would like to talk to you. He loves Ios Yakovos. He has some ideas about the film." And of course, I've been to the monastery before, and I love Saint David and Saint Yakovos, and I said, of course I will come. And I went. I remember it was a winter time. It wasn't summertime, because I remember it was cold at night. We needed blankets. And so Yelena Gavril, who I believe is the holy man, is a very special abbot, and a very, very meek and humble, incredible person. So the reason he invited me, he loves Ios Yakovos Tsilikis, who I also love. His story is incredible, and he's buried there at the monastery. His holy relics are there, and so he said, maybe think about this. I even have some of his spiritual children. They would maybe want to put money in the film. Maybe you can make a film about him. Whew. So I had to be honest. I said, Yelena, I love the saint, all the saints. For me, there's no difference. But unless I feel this spark inside of me that I have to do it, because I have to do the justice, there has to be something about it that I am meant to do this. It doesn't mean somebody else is not meant to do it, but I know, I'm not so sure that I told Yaron that I have in my mind, I'm planning on raising money to do St. Moses the Black, and God willing, a few more movies about the saints. And my goal is not just for me to do these films, because I know I can't do, nor do I want, nor am I meant to do that. But maybe what I would like to do is, if God willing, I can get Moses the Black off the ground, then and raise enough money to then maybe find other talented writers and directors to help them, because the door will be slightly more open for something like that, to then create, to make other films. And I said to him, I promise you, I will have this, like I will do it, even if it's not me writing and directing, because unless I really feel that because at that point I would have to choose the best person for the work. It's not about me. It's about telling the story. And he said, no, just maybe, no, I would still love you to do it. And he tells me, why don't you do this? And it's night at this point. Everybody's gone to sleep. He says, come here. And you know how they have those white plastic chairs. So
yes.
Just right here next to Saint Nektarios, right in front of him. And there's a blanket for you, and you just do a prayer. And I'm like, I take the blanket and I sit there. So I'm being obedient to Yelena Gavril, but I'm thinking, Yakos, I don't know. I'm not going to pray about the movie. What am I supposed to? Of course, I love, you communicate in your own way. I want to be obedient. I'm just praying, the simple prayer to the Lord. I just was sitting there and it was beautiful. Just me sitting next to the tomb of the saint. It's wonderful. And after, I don't know what it was, 10 minutes or 5 minutes, because in my mind, St. Moses is there. I'm thinking about this script that I cannot figure out. Why am I not getting where I need to be? All of a sudden, I see Chicago. I even see a scene of the grandmother at the funeral, shootout. I see the element that was missing from my script, that now it's a film. Actually, it could be a serious film where actually St. Moses now can come across in a maybe even more meaningful way, because we're bringing him into our world today. And I felt, I know now what I need to do. And I was so excited to go back to Athens to get into writing now again. And I remember the next day I told Yelena, but I was thinking about Ios Yakovos as well. And I'm looking at St. David. And at the time there were these fires, and I came to visit right after. It was right after the summer when the fires burned out everything. And you could see like that the fire came, and Yelena Gavril told me what's incredible. There were flames that were 800 meters high that had to be evacuated. And they were sure that the monastery was gone. When they came back, even the water on the petals of the flowers wasn't touched. Like miracle. I was there, everything was black. And you could see these white chapels, not even a flame touched them. I was standing there, I was walking around. It was a miracle, right? So I thought to myself, well, maybe a documentary about this. And then Saint Kyrillos is there too, another abbot after Ios Yakovos, who's also a saint. A lot of miracles happened through him. And I thought maybe it would be a good documentary to do about all three of them. And I told Yelena, I think this is my feeling, but I'm so grateful, because I think he knew. He's a holy man. That's why he told me, sit there And you see, and then I got an idea, and then when I went back and I realized, okay, well, if I want to tell a story like this, in order to do the justice to Saint Moses, now the story of a gangster has to be very real. Because if I write something that it's not really real, people can relate to, then Saint Moses can't do his work. Then no one's going to relate to it, right? Then I have to do so that's how that started.
Awesome. That's beautiful. That's a fantastic introduction to how it all came, because there's always a great backstory to these films, right? A long process of books or films, whatever. It's usually a long and difficult process. People don't realize doesn't just come together and you're ready to go. So now that we've got there, I'm thinking we should show the trailer. Before we show the trailer, you want to say anything before we show the trailer about what we're going to see, and then we can unpack afterwards more about the actual film?
Well, yes, it's a trailer of the film that, with God's grace and help, I've finished, and it's the story of this gang leader in Chicago who comes out of prison, and not to give too much away, basically starts on doing things, goes through a revenge process, revenging his friend, and then he encounters Saint Moses the Black in a very mysterious way. Awesome. And Saint Moses leads him to ultimately repentance.
Okay, let's watch the trailer. We'll be right back.
Well, you're free now. What's stopping you from getting out?
My feet is my feet.
That's Saint Moses the Black.
The saint who was once a gang member.
He was a gangster. Oh yeah, the most feared gangster in the land of Egypt at that time.
He who lives by the sword shall die by the sword.
Good luck with that. Everybody know I ain't no rat. If you're gonna choose a battle, tough guy, choose the right one.
That's intense. That's intense. That's beautiful. So obviously we don't want to spoil the film for everybody, but we do want to learn a little bit about the parts of it so we can know what to expect. So we've got a lot of people here. In fact, I think it's my good friend and priest, Father Turbo, right? He's in there. I heard his voice.
Yes. Father Turbo is playing an Orthodox priest in the movie, because
that's amazing.
Have chosen an Orthodox church to be the place where, and it had to be, because where else somebody would know about Saint Moses, and it's we have a couple of scenes in the church, and he's playing the priest, where that at one point speaks to our lead actor, who has realized that is about to go through a real repentance in his life, and Father has done an incredible job. When I called him to ask him to do this, I told Father, I know this is unconventional what I'm going to ask. I don't know if you will be willing or be allowed to do it, and he said, okay, send me the script. And I sent him the script, and he read the script. And this was the first time I've sent the script to a father to read. So I was a little bit nervous, and he was in London. And when he came back, he said, I read it. I want to do it. He's just texted me good stuff. And so I called him. I said, so Father, you're going to do it? He says, absolutely. I love it because it's very real. Otherwise, no one's going to care. This were his words.
It's so true.
So he ended up being part of the film.
Forgive me, but one of the biggest drawbacks to most Christian films is that it feels a lot of it's fake, in the sense of it's not reflecting our reality, or it's sappy, or it's mushy, or it's whatever. I mean, there's a lot of things that are the Protestant ethos that does not really resonate with a lot of Orthodox. So I think that Father's right on. It's got to be real. Like we like reality. Like reality means we're grounded, and it's humility. Like it's the humble, salt of the earth kind of stuff. That's where we need to be. And I think that's perfect.
Yes, and the film obviously it shows the reality of violence of what's really going on in the world in Chicago, but it's not done to glorify any of that. On the contrary, to
Yes.
show that we need redemption and redemption is possible. And
So you got to show the tragedy. You got to show the tragedy to understand the redemption.
in order to understand what we need to turn away from. Otherwise, this is I'm always going to say I'm a student of Dostoevsky. That's something that I've read him in Serbian English many times in different stages of my life. Even when before I did Man of God, I specifically reread one of his books because I wanted to make sure I keep the level high, and because he had that I'm not comparing. I'm saying I'm his student. What he has he was a devout Orthodox Christian, and he was somebody who was sent to exile in Siberia. He was actually condemned to death, and he was pardoned, and he was for about 10 years in Siberia. And this is when he in the camp, because he was. There was no communism at the time, but he was deemed like socialist, anti-church movement, and the Tsar sent him in exile. And he claims that he had found his faith in these very difficult circumstances, that he saw Christ in the prison. And he wrote to his brother Mikhail at the time, before he was about to leave after 10 years serving the sentence, he wrote and he said, please, can you clear my name so I can start writing again? Because now I'm not going to write nonsense. I'm going to write the real stuff. And everything he wrote was to the glory of God. It's if you read about him, every single book, but the way he did it, he went really deep, and he told the ugly truths of human characters, and therefore he was able to get in there to show the light at the end of the tunnel. And that's the way I sort of that's my way of operating and working in my art.
Was it a huge learning curve to enter into this world of big star rappers and people who are not a part of your world? You obviously had to get to know a lot of ins and outs. You've got big names in that world. I don't know those names. I'd like to learn more about them, but that would have been a big challenge, I think, to get into their mindset, to be able to work, not just to produce the film, but to work with them and clearly from the things I saw, the interviews I saw, they loved you and they respected you tremendously at the end of the day. So you had a good time doing it, obviously, because they enjoyed your style.
You're right. I think what happened, first of all, I want to thank my brothers and sisters from the west side of Chicago, particularly Reginald Akeem Berry, who is also executive producer on the film, who was somebody who was incarcerated for 17 years. He was in solitary confinement for 9 years. And he's been out. He's the founder of Saving of Our Sons ministry, and he's given his life. He promised God that he was going to serve him for all his life, but especially as many years that he said himself that he had caused pain and destruction in the neighborhood, that he was going to try to help people to get away from that kind of life. And that's what he's been doing for the last 17, 18 years. An incredible man. So I worked really closely with him so we can bring the reality to the characters, as well. We're talking about the truth is very important. And trying to keep to the minimal, obviously the language and whenever at the end when we sat down at the table and there were a few brothers and sisters that were there that put it in their lingo. I've asked them to keep the language to the minimums, just what's needed to keep it authentic, and they were very grateful for that. So because of them, I was able to bring authenticity to this project.
Yes.
Then we had to look at how when you think about this, to raise money and to ask people to to invest, I mean, there is a certain responsibility. If we're going to say we're doing an apostolic work and we're going to bring the story to everybody, then we need to have the ability to put it out there in a meaningful way. And for that, you need people that are recognizable, people that people can identify it or know about. Otherwise, you cannot get a distribution. And
Yes.
then you will only stay within the walls of our church. But that wasn't the reason. I
Yes.
felt like Moses wanted me to do something where he can really do his work on a much larger scale. And that's why I had some ideas about it. I had some, that was my wish list. But little by little,
Did you get all your wishes? Did you get all your wishes?
I had a wish list, but then the right people showed up. Like the first person who it was attached, and this is very interesting. I was at here in Greece. This was 2 summers ago, praying I went to Kamariza in the Church of Saint Nektarios, where I prayed many times when I was doing Man of God, because we had a lot of obstacles. And I remember going there on my knees praying, and every time I would leave that particular church where a lot of miracles happen, everything would get cleared. And I was visiting the church, and also Yelena Nektarios Vitalis, who I believe is a saint. He had passed away in 2018. And I've met him before. He was the one also who gave me a blessing for Man of God. So I go, and I almost because I visited him so many times, I feel like I've known him very well, and I asked him to help me. And I remember driving back, and there was a particular place on the road where I felt like something told me, call Father Paul Abernathy. And I'm like, why Father? I'm not, of course, I love Father Paul Abernathy. We've spoken, we were in touch, and he's supporting the project. But I'm thinking, why am I thinking of this all of a sudden now after prayer, such a long prayer, specifically asking Saint Nektarios to help me I need to get a name. I need to start getting a name so I can jumpstart the project. I'm thinking, why Father Paul? So I'm thinking, okay, he does know Troy, who I've met already, and Theodora, his wife, and they're saying they were obviously going to support the project once it's finished. So I didn't understand, but then I thought a little deeper about this, because it was very specific how it came into my mind. I had no thoughts about any of this, and it was right after the prayer. And I said, but wait a second. I know they had a fundraising, and there was this Wiz Khalifa, who is a famous rapper, was there. And the only reason I knew who Wiz Khalifa was at that point was because my older son, loved Wiz Khalifa when he was a teenager. So I said, okay, maybe. So I waited. I did a prayer. I said, when I get back to Los Angeles, I will call Theodora, and I will ask if maybe perhaps they can put me in touch with him and see if Wiz would want to play one of the. I had him in mind for one of the gang, younger, either the leader of the opposing gang or the leader of the younger gang. And when I came back, the conversation went really well. And a couple of weeks later, the whole thing happened. We were in touch with his managers, and now I had to wait for Wiz to read the script. that was the punchline. So I remember going to visit the Monastery of Archangels in Candalia in Texas. And I flew to Austin, and I had to drive from Austin to, it's between Austin and San Antonio, and it was getting dark, and I had a scheduled Zoom finally after a long time. Wiz is getting on the Zoom. Hopefully he has read the script. And I remember parking, because at one point I'm going to lose any connection. There's not, the connection is not very good there. So I parked next to this big grocery store, and I was waiting there in the parking lot. And we get on the Zoom, and his managers showed up, and they say, oh, he needs another hour to read the script. I don't know, do you want to wait, or you want to do it tomorrow? I said, no, please have him read the script. I'm going to wait. I'm here, and I'm going to wait for an hour. So we waited for about an hour, and then there is Wiz coming on the Zoom link, and he said that he was so happy to read this. This is what he said: I love it. what I love about it, I feel it's very authentic and real, and I'm in 100%. And yes, I'd like to play the leader of the younger gang, and that was it. And I remember driving after to the monastery, super happy, like I was gonna tell Yelena the Cita. I was like, I got a big name attached to the movie. So
That's
this is
awesome.
the first, I would say, a big name that we had attached. And one thing I'm very grateful to is because later, even it took, still you have to get more people, you have to get a lead attached, and you have to get this and that. And one thing that, interestingly enough, when we met in person, we met in Los Angeles, he told me something. He said, don't worry, like I'm at this stage in my life, I do things that I feel I'm meant to do. And this is something I feel like I'm meant to be part of. And don't worry, if it happens in 2 months or in a year, it doesn't matter. No pressure. I'm part of this. And then he said
Awesome.
something. He said, I think anybody who's meant to be part of this project is going to be part of it. Who's not, they will just fall off. So it's
Yeah.
interesting hearing it from him. So that gave me hope. And it was interesting later when we got Omar Epps to play the lead, which is another person that I had to wait, because at one point we were making offers to a lot of different known actors, but people in Hollywood shy away from films that have faith, because they feel, oh, maybe they're going to be deemed as actors that do faith-based films. It's this whole thing. So a lot of people passed, and I was thinking, I can't believe this. Am I going to have unknown now play the lead, which is a fantastic role? And then Omar Epps, who is a great actor, very well known in African American community, when he responded and he wanted to meet in person, which I was very happy to hear. And when we met, he watched Man of God, and he told me, I just first wanted to meet with you, and I loved your movie, and I was just want to look at you and see who is this person who made this film, Man of God. Like this is incredible. And he's a believer. And he said, I love the story, and I feel this is meant for me. So that's little by little. And later we were scheduled to do it. Then 50 Cent. This is another great story. I originally thought, well, we should have an executive producer who has a name that also helps to carry the weight of the movie. And I originally thought 50 was the right person because he has got a street cred, that's he's known for that. And this is a story about a gangster. But how do I get hold of 50? So it didn't happen. We were going after a few other known people. One of them was Jamie Foxx, but it just didn't happen. And then because Omar Epps, once we were signing the contract with him, and the agency that he's represented with was very excited. And I remember Alexandros, my husband, says, that they represent 50 Cent. I said, well, let's ask them if 50 wants to exactly produce. And then Alexandros rightfully so said, listen, we can't really ask for that. You're not asking for an actor. We can't ask them if 50 can. And I said, okay, but I always thought he would do it. And all of a sudden, the owner of the agency calls us and says, how about if we have 50 Cent exactly produce your film? And I'm like, oh, I think that would be great. So he reads the script again very quickly. After 2 days, he's on board. So this is what I'm saying.
That's awesome.
It's interesting how these things happen. You gotta wait. It looks like nothing is happening, but then God has its own people at the right time that they come on board. And then obviously, we had a full cast at one point, and then of course there were other different kind of obstacles that we had to overcome, even though we had all these huge names, because they tell you, oh, you can pre-sell the movie. But in this environment climate today, what's very difficult about independent filmmaking is that the Netflixes, Amazons, all the studios of this world, even though you have huge names, they want to see you finish the film first. So before they give you MG, or before, so they're just sitting and waiting. And so we had to do everything ourselves. And I remember a couple of times driving to San Francisco to pray to St. John of Shanghai to help us. And and we had to, that's why we had to move. Now the date was, we were supposed to shoot in April, and then my director of photography, who did Man of God, who absolutely I had to have DP my film Moses the Black, he had to move the date, and we still didn't have all the funds in place, so we had to move it a little bit. And I remember being nervous, and I remember, okay, Wiz was fine. Wiz said, I don't care even if it takes another 9 months, but now I have the lead Omar Epps, and I remember asking to meet with him. And I was nervous, telling him, I'm sorry, we're going to have to move it to September. And he said, don't worry. He said, I told you, I'm 100% in, and you just keep me posted, and there's no problem. I want to do it. And then we got another, in the process, we also got Quavo, who's another rapper as well, who decided to do another role. So we got a great group of people to be part of this, and everything was put together for the September shoot. Father, to be honest, it was a 3-week shoot. After we finished on the 29th of September, on the 30th, I got on the plane to fly back to Greece. At that point, we had a theatrical release in place for 30th of January. And it's a very short turnaround. So I had to fly. I already had my editor working on the material, and we're still here now finishing the post-production. And this is how this whole thing happened. And I remember for the couple of weeks, I couldn't believe actually that I've done the movie. I mean, even though I was in editing room for 10 hours, but I was just pinching myself. I said,
I was going to ask you, is 3 weeks normal to do the whole thing in 3 weeks?
Doing films in the US, it's very expensive, and every additional day costs a lot of money. So what I had to do is rewrite the script in a way. I had to almost pre-edit the movie. I had to, like with Man of God, I had luxury of dropping 40 minutes of stuff that I don't need to kind of play with it and made it to where I wanted. Here I didn't, and because we were shooting for 6-7 weeks, but here I did not have that luxury. So I had to take a lot of scenes. I had to make it, I had to basically pre-edit in my mind the stuff that I knew probably will not make the cut and it's not necessary for the story. I had to strip a lot of things, which made the script much better. Omar Epps was very helpful because we worked really closely together on the lead, and that also helped me and gave me some very good notes. And so the script was like just very, very minimalistic, which makes it for a better story. That's harder to do, but it pushed me to do that because I had to, because we had to shoot it in 3 weeks. And then we shot it in Champaign, not in Chicago, because in Chicago it would have been another $2 million, be impossible to do it. So we did it in Champaign, and which is the locations look exactly like the west side of Chicago, and we only had 1 day to pick up shots and some things that we did on the 29th of September. And when we were done, I was like, I remember being on the plane thinking, I can't believe it. We actually did it. So thank God for everything.
Wow.
Thanks Saint Moses, who I believe was always there, and Saint Nektarios, and all the ones.
Well, this is gonna just project beyond any our imagination. Not just, I think, Saint Moses the Black, but the Desert Fathers, the ascetics, the stories of the Desert Fathers are so amazing. I hope to God that this will draw people to go and start reading and poring over these amazing, wise, wonder-working saints.
Yes, all the Desert Fathers. They have incredible stories. Yes. Yeah.
So tell me, so in the Black American world, the world of rappers, is there? How are you going to market it? How are you going to approach it? Is that underway? Is that happening? Obviously, I think a lot of Orthodox people are going to go just because they loved your film and they love anything that you're going to do. But there's that whole world of the African American, crowd. How are you approaching that? I'm just curious if you're just doing.
I think because of Omar Epps, because of 50 Cent, because of Wiz Khalifa, Quavo, our cast members, including Deontay Wilder, who's a 4-time heavyweight champion of the world, boxing champion of the world, who also had a part in the movie. Because of this kind of cast that really believes in the story, because it's a story of redemption, of anti-violence, and that's why we are able to promote it to Black African American crowd. And one thing I want to say, Father, this is just my observation. It was always my honest observation from many, many years that I lived in the United States, that Black people have a lot of faith. This is something that they have this living faith inside. And I've noticed that many times with a lot of my friends. And
suffering does that. Suffering does. Yeah. Absolutely.
Interestingly enough, like sometimes I remember speaking to some of the PR teams, and there was one lady who's working on the urban and also faith-based side of the African Americans. She said, "Well, listen, Black people just simply have faith. So for them, it's natural. You just have to market it to the mainstream, and the faith part, they get that. They even if you don't think they don't have faith, they actually do. So this is something that it's similar to Serbia, like Serbs are like that. Greeks, I remember talking to even there was one conversation that I had with a gentleman in, I believe it was in Patmos, and he was claiming that he doesn't go to church, he has no faith, but he said if somebody came and tried to take my monasteries here or churches, I would immediately go to war and give my life. So that's you see, that's the Orthodox. We have that. So even if some of us, I don't know if you remember what happened in Montenegro. That was a miracle when the whole country stood up when they were trying to take the property of the church and take the church away. They were thinking, oh, nobody in Montenegro has faith. Nobody goes to church. Yeah, until you scratch it underneath the surface, and they tried to do that. There was this lithias. There were in hundreds of thousands of people, and they overthrew the government. Because no, you're not going to touch that. So that's a little bit similar with a Black America. They're very faithful, and I think they're going to respond really well to. And something that's interesting, what even maybe a lot of Reginald Kimberry and his and people that I work with, they're not Orthodox, but they were so happy to hear about Saint Moses the Black. They're so happy to hear there's so many African saints. I mean, a lot of Desert Fathers. They're from Egypt. They're African.
This is so good because there's so many levels and angles to this that are going to be good for people. First of all, they're going to explode this myth that whatever their image is, which there are a variety of them, but they're American Protestantism is Christianity, equals Christianity, or the white man, the WASP, the Northern European equals Christianity, or whatever these various stereotypes, or that Black people in Africa are all converting to Islam because Christianity is not for Black people or whatever. This is going to explode so much to that because you bring in the history and you bring in the witness of these ancient saints and martyrs. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's something that people are really excited. And I remember because we shot in the Church of Saint Nicholas, Antiochian Orthodox Church in Champaign, Illinois. And they had already icon of Saint Moses the Black as one of the big icons on the walls. So I could see some of our crew members and actors that are African American. They just walked in there and they were looking at the icon and they couldn't believe to see that amongst all the other saints that were there, that there was an icon of Saint Moses the Black, and there you could see how I think they were very moved to see that, you know,
I would have loved to be there. That would have been awesome to be there just to watch their faces. That would have been phenomenal.
yes, because they've never seen that in white America, you know, that's just simply, and that's what I said. It's interesting when in their mind, oh, they got the they learn about God from the white American man. No, actually, they knew about it in Africa already, way before the white American man in the U.S. have told them about it. So this is an interesting thing, that it's a fact. It's a historical fact. So, I
think we're going to see in about a year's time, we're going to start seeing icons of Moses Black in like Protestant gospel churches.
Yes.
It's gonna become a fad or something. I get, it's one of my predictions. Father Hears predicts. Why not? Right?
Why not? No, listen, these are great saints. I mean, we know what I mean. The story Saint Anthony the Great, Saint Athanasius the Great.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, Saint Anthony the Great apparently came out of the desert only twice. He came out of the desert once because he wanted to be martyred. He had a desire to become a martyr. It didn't happen. He was depressed about it. When we think about it, so he went back into the desert. And the second time was when it was this big war going on about, is Jesus God and man in one, or he's, you know, there was these heresies that were floating around. And at one point, his disciple, Saint Athanasius the Great, was obviously saying the truth and fighting for what the apostles have passed on correctly. And there was Arians and other heresies that were trying to pervert the faith. So he was going through a lot of persecution, and there was this kind of very conniving way, because the monk Saint Anthony the Great was very well respected, and somebody leaked the gossip that, oh, the monks have sided with us, that Jesus is not God and man in one, you know, like this whole thing. So this is the second time that Saint Anthony the Great came out of the desert, and he stood by his disciple and says, no, absolutely, Jesus is God and man in one. It's a Holy Trinity, and that's when, and the whole thing was sealed at the Ecumenical Council, and that's when we had our New Testament put together. You know, so people don't realize this all happened because of Saint Anthony the Great and Saint Athanasius, who come from Egypt. You know,
he came to defend Saint Athanasius essentially against the Arians.
Exactly,
one of the most
the Arians, and this is how we had that problem.
Saint Athanasius was taking refuge with the monks. He was going occasionally when he was exiled from his see, going to the monks. The monks, of course, loved him and supported him, and that's how it's always been, right? The monastics up to this very day, up to the day, in our own time with Elder Ephraim in the monasteries, they're the bastion of Orthodoxy, and they're always standing. And so it's hard
preserving the truth. Yes.
Yes, and I think this is the great thing about projecting and presenting Saint Moses, is that this is some of the residual impact will be, hopefully, I pray that they'll start to love the monastics, and it's just going to be a win-win for everybody, including the Orthodox, who, you know, there's plenty of Orthodox who don't even understand how important the monasteries are. So hopefully there'll be many positive, wonderful, implications for the film for a lot of people. Is there anything about the film? I'm just curious. I know there's some really pretty not grotesque, but stark things about Saint Moses. If I'm not mistaken, doesn't he? Is this wrong? Am I mixing it up with another Desert Father? But doesn't he open the womb of a?
I haven't put that in a film.
I was just curious if that would go in, because that's so.
You see briefly who he was, very quickly in a flashback of a. But it's really, we are focusing on the violence of our character, who identifies with Saint Moses, and then the focus, Saint Moses, the gentleman who plays Saint Moses, his name is Chakwudi Wuji. He's a Nigerian who lived in Ethiopia for 7 years. and he has done an incredible job. And I don't want to give it away now, but his story is all about repent, and to see how he repented in the desert. So this is very powerful stuff.
Do you tell a story about how do you tell a story about how he was called to judge someone and how he taught the Father?
Because you'll see, we
no, you can't get too much. You can't get too much in the weeds.
Because we want to make sure that he comes. You will see when it's very powerful. He's throughout the movie, and he leads our character. He just cannot ignore this repentance, because Saint Moses' repentance becomes the repentance of the main character, which is something that I think is good, because maybe it's going to help people today identify with him and with his incredible repentance. And obviously martyrdom at the end.
How about anything? This is got some violence in it. Is this a PG-13? So children maybe
because of the violence, there is also some language. There is no sexual content whatsoever. Because there was no need for it. I didn't go there at all. Everything that's there, it's there to keep it real. So we had to have some language, because like I said, we kept it to the minimum, but it has to be real, and there is violence. So I would say that it would be I would say it's R-rated. I think I'd say 13 plus, 14 plus would be they could come and watch it.
It's gonna be in theaters.
But I was gonna, it's gonna be in theater on January 30th.
I mean, it'll be all over the States. What's the theater? Okay.
It's AMC, Regal, and Cinemark in general.
Okay.
And it'll be nationwide. And it's opening on January 30th. And the tickets are going on sale on December 19th. So,
okay.
Please, people can follow us at Moses the Black Movie, get all the updates. And the tickets go on sale at fathomentertainment.com. All the major platforms, Fandango, AMC, Regal, Cinemark, people can already buy tickets.
And is it important so if people want to support the film and not just go view it, is there anything you want to tell them that they can do to help maybe the first day that it's released, a big turnout, or does that matter?
Well, absolutely. If the big the weekend will dictate how long it will stay in the theaters. We have a wide theatrical release. It's minimum 1 week. Obviously, if the movie performs, it can be as long as 4 weeks in the theaters. And I'm praying that many people will go and see it.
Right. And so maybe
go support it and tell your friends about it. And again, follow us at Moses the Black Movie. That's so
the 30th is that a Wednesday? Does it always come out on a Wednesday?
Is it a Wednesday? I would have to look at the.
It's a Friday. It's a Friday. Okay.
Friday usually comes out on the weekend, so that first weekend is very important.
All right.
There's going to be a premiere in Los Angeles. There are going to be some also screenings in different cities. There's going to be a screening in Chicago, in Atlanta. Homeboy Industries, which is one of the largest anti-violence and recovery program organizations, is supporting the film. Quavo's Rocket Foundation, who also works in anti-violence. They're supporting the film. So I think that this is interesting. Like it has a faith element. It has a cultural element. It has also social justice in it. So I think it'll bring different audiences, which is, I think, great, because I think St. Moses can reach many different people.
So is it when the premiere comes out like on a Thursday, or is it just the day before, day of? How does that work?
The premiere usually happens like a week or a couple of weeks before. We're still figuring out the date, setting up the date, but that'll be good, because also that's a way of promoting the film. And
Is Father Turbo gonna be there? Is Father Turbo gonna be in the premiere?
I believe so. He's one of the
He should be
important.
there, right?
He has a very important role in the movie.
I'm gonna talk to him. Maybe he can get me a ticket or something so I can go.
We can, of course. That's.
I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm just so excited about Father Turbo. He deserved it. He's working very, very hard in his mission there. So God help him. But that's exciting. There's nobody better, right? Yeah.
No, he did a wonderful job. Omar Epps asked me after doing scenes with him, has he ever acted before? He was very real. I said, well, he did a great job. He was playing himself. Sometimes that's actually very difficult. You can get in your head and you can try to put something on, but he was very down to earth. And
that's awesome.
Fantastic job.
That's beautiful. We're going to continue to support everywhere we can, of course, as it goes forward. You're going to be releasing some other promotional material that we can share. Is there going to be anything else that we can any behind the scenes?
We're going to be releasing stuff as we go along, and so that's why I'm saying people can stay tuned if they can follow at Moses the Black movie. We're going to it's going to start trickling in many very exciting different videos. We're going to get a lot of shout outs from our cast, and there's going to be some backstage videos. One of them you have seen. I think they're really moving and powerful, where people can hear how the cast and members felt about working and how they feel about the story. So I think we're going to be releasing a lot of those things, and I will obviously share with you, Father, so you can
awesome, beautiful. Beautiful. And if there's other people out there, other Orthodox podcasters or other people who've got, shows and maybe they can also promote, I think it'd be awesome. The Orthodox community should really get behind it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know my brother John wants to have you on his show, and I'm sure there are other people out there who are looking forward to discussing it because it's an event for the Orthodox community in many ways. Because it's Moses the Black, but also because you're one of our favorite doing this kind of thing, and it's important for us.
Also, we show the church. We show Orthodox Church. This is something that it's done in, I believe, in very tasteful manner. I always believe in. I don't like to. And I believe I've done this with Man of God, and I think that's why it appealed to so many people that are not Orthodox. And a lot of people found Orthodoxy because of it, because it wasn't telling people, oh, you have to become Orthodox. It simply the truth. I think the truth is very powerful. That's what I'm talking about, because people react to honesty, to the truth. And if it's God's will, then they will get interested and even listen. Some people might turn Orthodox. Some people are going to turn from the life of destruction to serving the Lord. I mean, either way, this is
yes, absolutely.
I think it's a story of redemption. That's the most important, and I think we need those nowadays, always, but I think especially in our world today, that's needed.
Tell me, before we open it up to questions, any last thoughts? And also, I'm kind of curious, although it's probably premature, I know you're working, as you said, on a number of projects, possible future projects, but you're also working to create, as you said, a fund and also just an environment which will feed and support and encourage and inspire other filmmakers.
Yes, absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah,
I would love to do that. That was one of my goals to do that, is to be able to, because I think there's so many beautiful stories of the saints out there that are meant to be told nowadays, and I would like to develop different projects, and again use different writers, directors to bring their vision to the screen. That's the goal. The goal is not for me to do all the. I'm saying that it's just like I've done Man of God, I've done Moses the Black. I don't know if I'm going to do another one, might not, but definitely the goal is to have a platform, and because the heart is to break through, and if we can, if St. Moses does really well, I think we will have a probably good deal with one of the studios, which will also help to make those things come true.
Right. So I don't know if you know about this, but there's an effort going on right now. I don't know a ton about it, but I did talk to the originators, the creators. It's called Logos Cinema, and they're trying to create a streaming platform for basically Orthodox films and documentaries and even podcasts. And they're trying to secure agreements with Orthodox filmmakers and films from all over the world: Russia, Serbia, Romania, Greece. And I just, as you're talking, I'm thinking about how important it is for all of us to support one another and in the future, create that environment, that part. I mean, there really isn't, I don't know, you tell me, it doesn't seem to be an Orthodox corner of filmmaking, or at least not a huge one, in at least English-speaking world.
I feel that, as you know better than I do, you see a lot of people are interested in Orthodoxy nowadays, and
Yes.
and I think media is a very powerful tool. And where do people find out about things nowadays? It's through
Yes.
through media. So I think that because of different reasons, and again, you know it better than I do, people are hungry for the truth. They feel like that something is missing, that things have been watered down, and they just wanna, they're searching for the real, for I mean, as we know, Orthodoxy is a faith of the apostles, of the fathers. We have preserved it for many centuries, and people are searching for the truth right now, and
people are suffering. They're suffering.
Yeah.
They're being suffocated by delusion and by half truths, and the kind of impression that they had when they saw Moses the Black inside the church. That's multiplying all over the place on many levels. They're looking at history. They're discovering the history of the church they were totally in the dark about. They're discovering the martyrs of the Orthodox, martyrdoms and blah blah blah. So there's that impact that this film has, and that little thing that you described, the impact that's happening, thousands of times over, all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think the ground is fertile for it right now.
Absolutely.
So with God's blessings, I think I just, may God's will be done. Like I say, without Him, it can't be done. But He's the one who does ultimately gives His blessing. But I think I have a feeling that would be. I would like to do that. I would like to bring more projects like this, and make sure that they're done in a way that it can resonate with people. That we can say we made good movies, as well, because art is important. It's if we just. It's not just enough to say, "Oh, I'm making a film about a saint, so it's going to be good." Not necessarily. It can be a slippery slope. It needs to be very real and very authentic.
I would love to see somebody do a film on the new martyrs of Russia. That would be an amazing thing. We did a 10-week course on the new martyrs of Russia. Anybody who hasn't seen it needs to go and watch it, because it's one of the few things. There's not a lot in the English language that's really projecting what the Russian church, the Russian people went through from 1917 to about 1937, 38. Yeah. And then not just Russia, but also Romania, but Russia's the large.
The saints of the prison. That's something that I'm kind of interested in. I have an idea about that one. Again, not for me to
come out with the book. The book's going to be published by Uncle Mountain Press. You're going to have access to it in English very soon. So hopefully,
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love, one of my favorite books is Father Alexei. It's we sell it. It's about a priest who lived in a camp in the years of the persecution
I think you mean Arsenios, Father Arsenios, I think, right? Arseni.
Arsenios, forgive me, Father
Arseni,
Arsenios.
Yeah, Saint Vladimir.
Forgive me, Father Arsenios. And as a matter of fact, I bought that book quite a few times in the monastery of Saint Anthony's, and I've given it to people because even that's my older son loved that book when he was about 13. Yeah. He read it, and he still remembers that book.
That's interesting because I just gave it to my son. He's 13. I said, you need to read this.
Okay. Oh no, that's a great book. That could be an incredible movie. It's just
amazing. It is amazing. Yeah. All right, let's open it up to questions. If you unless you want to add anything before we go there, any last thoughts? Anything we didn't cover?
I think I've said enough. Let's see. I'm happy to hear the questions and hopefully.
All right, we'll start with the super chats, the donations people give here on YouTube, and we'll start with Ortho Nektarios. Thank you very much for your support. And he says, Yelena, your movie Man of God was an answer to my many prayers of finding holiness while I was confused. I was a confused Protestant. Watching that movie led me to tears and led me to check out my first Orthodox church. I took Saint Nektarios as my patron. That's awesome. Here in Arizona. Oh, well, that's great. You gotta love that.
That makes me feel really great. I've actually had quite a few people have expressed the same thing. So I feel that Saint Nektarios definitely is doing the work.
Yes, indeed. From our every live stream she's here, they're here to support us. We appreciate it. Thank you both for all you do. St. Moses the Black, please pray for us. Ever since I discovered him, I love him. So there you go. Thank you so much for your donation.
Thank you.
Our church women's group is going to have a ladies' night to go watch this. I love St. Moses the Black. Thank you, Magdalene.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah. How do we get the movie? Okay, so we just need some basic. Repeat the.
Yeah, January 30th, the film will be out in all the theaters nationwide, and I'm sure after that it'll be on all the platforms where people can watch it.
All right. John is involved in supporting and helping films, and he says, sorry I missed you when I was in your parish in Los Angeles last month screening American Orthodox. Do you have any American saints that you have special connection to?
That's a question for me. Or American?
Yes.
Oh yes. I love the story of Saint Seraphim Rose. That's actually something that I interested in developing because I think he's a great saint, and I won't reveal my idea behind it right now. But yeah, that's one of them.
Well, that's exciting. That's exciting. Very exciting.
So,
I'd be blessed. Awesome. And you can put St. John in there as well, so it's a double win.
St. John of
Shanghai and San Francisco. That would be part of the story.
Of course, that goes without saying. I would say he's Russian, Serbian, but he's already definitely on my. That would be an incredible story. That's also under the radar. That I think that would be a great movie as well. And there is another saint that I was here. I went to visit island of Andros because of that. I'm gathering some material. I have an idea about another saint. His name is Saint John of Santa Cruz, and I'm interested in developing a story about him.
Yes. He was martyred by Satanists, they think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and he has a connection. He has a connection to the island of Andros because they said that miraculously the bells were ringing at his martyrdom. Yeah.
Yes, and he appeared many times after his martyrdom in the island because he is from Andros. He grew up in Andros, and he was serving in the church. He was playing when he was a young boy. He was playing in the church of Saint Elijah, and he would visit the Church of Saint Elijah, and he would go to the monastery of Saint Nicholas, where Yelena Popovic is there, who gave him a blessing to leave to United States as a young man. He became a priest in the United States, and he served in Santa Cruz in the Church of Saint Elijah, and that's where the martyrdom happened. Yes.
Oh, very good. How did the non-Orthodox actors respond to the real story of St. Moses the Black? Did any of them talk about going to an Orthodox church?
I am sure that everybody is very much moved by it. And I'm going to say this, even with Saint Nektarios, people that did not go to church, later on, many of them have decided to go to church. Even one of, so because you don't know that, it doesn't mean that people would say something. People usually process that quietly within themselves. And then
Yes.
later, once the seed is planted, then the God waters the seed, and that usually happens without anybody talking about it. It happened many times with Saint Nektarios. One of my original line producers, who he told me, Yelena, I must tell you something. I love the script, but I don't believe at all. I don't go to church. I don't know if you want me to work on this. I said to him, you don't have to believe. If you like the script, I mean, please be part of the team. It's not a problem. And this gentleman now has baptized his son, and he is a member of the church. And it was just by reading the script that he completely converted. So these things happen, but maybe it takes a little bit of time. People don't talk about it, and they surprise you later, and they tell you that it actually happened.
Right. So the same John, who's here, a regular and supports our work, he says, are you, Yelena Popovic, related to Saint Justin Popovic?
There is a possibility, because my my grandfather's grandfather is a famous priest, Alexa, from Montenegro, and famous priest Alexa was the grandfather of Saint Justin Popovic. So, and we celebrate. We have the same Slava of Saint Nicholas. So there is a very, very big possibility that actually that my grandfather had the same grandfather as Saint Justin Popovic did.
Well, one of my favorite all-time saints. I've read everything I can get in English.
He's amazing, definitely. In Serbia, they would like for me to do a film about him.
I'm sure they would. We should do. You could do this Saint Nikolai and Saint Justin together somehow.
I think Saint Nikolai, I'm 100% sure that should be a mini-series, because his life, I think, it could be told. We can do more justice to Saint Nikolai Velimirovich by making a mini-series, and that I think it will be a very good one.
Yes.
That's something I would like to do at one point.
Well, he went to England. He went to Auschwitz. He was in America. I mean, there's so much to tell there, right? I mean, it's not just stationary. Exactly. He's not just sitting in his room writing or something. He's got a lot of. Would there be a movie like Man of God that focuses solely on the life of certain saint? It's a question, I guess. I would like to see a movie about Saint Sergius of Radonezh or John of Kronstadt. Okay.
Of course. Well, there will be, like I did the film about Saint Nektarios. There'll be films. It could be Saint Seraphim Rose. It could be Saint Seraphim of Sorrow. Maybe, I don't know. But
Saint John of Kronstadt. I mean, that would be. There's so much there. That would be amazing.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. God willing, please pray for me. My goal is to work with talented people that can join efforts that we can bring some great stories of the saints to the screen.
Maybe you can help us as well, but inspire us and direct us to finish our documentary. We would love to.
Absolutely. Father, I'm here for whatever.
I know. We're still working on it. It takes a long time. How many years did it take you to go from first inception to completion with Moses the Black?
Well, I started writing before I did Man of God. When did Man of God came out? About 2021. I think around 2018 was when I started writing the first treatment. So now it's released in 2026. Man of God took 10 years from.
Okay, so that gives me a little bit of courage. A little. I'm still. I
think that what you're doing is very important, and I strongly believe that it's going to happen. As we talked about, I think it just has to take its course. Sometimes maybe we feel we need this, we need that. Sometimes we don't need everything. Maybe just as I we've spoke about this. Sometimes just going and doing it, then God just brings everything,
I think you're right, and there's a reason why everything happens, and we need to. It's a big learning curve for us. So we got. There's going to be a lot of steps, probably more steps than for somebody who's already got some work under their belt. So we need to be patient, and we're going to be patient. We're going to see it through. So by your prayers, Panos, thank God for your work. How have you managed to convey such holy experiences in ways that do not manipulate viewers' emotions in imbalanced ways, but rather inspire doxology to God? I think that's a real art. That's an art. That's hard. Beautiful. Good question.
Good question. Well, again, I know maybe it sounds very simple, but one has to be truthful and be humble, and not and to try really. For me, I'm a filmmaker, and it's very important to me to. I approach my craft very seriously. So the most important thing for me is to make a good film. So now if I'm going to go into the arena of spirituality, the most important thing to do is not to think that I'm making a spiritual film, because that will be fake. I have to make a very human, honest story that people can resonate, that will resonate with people. That's the first thing. And whether it's going to have a spiritual connotation, it's something that God will have to bless at the end, according to our efforts. And it's a little bit like a prayer of the heart. I made that parallel. Like when somebody has asked me that question before I did a Man of God, and says, how are you going to do this? How are you going to put the light? I said, I'm not trying to put any light. I'm just trying to tell the truth. Because that's and the only one who can put the light is the Lord. I can't do that. So and then to go further to explain, I asked them, well, for example, if you don't understand what I'm trying to say, how do you get the prayer of the heart? A Jesus prayer. There, sometimes it happens to not to everybody. It can be to a lay person or a monk. The prayer can just happen on its own. And anybody who knows about prayer, like yourself, Father, you know that kind of prayer is not acquired by our efforts. There are certain things that we can do to hopefully one day acquire prayer like that. But whether it's going to happen or not, it's going to be by God's blessing. So that's the same way with this kind of filmmaking. So I believe that what we need to do is stay really humble, and if there is an honest inclination in the heart to express something artistically, and definitely and use the life of a saint, it has to be something that we understand personally. That's what Dostoevsky said, for example, when they asked him, what should we write about? He said, I would not write about anything unless you have a personal understanding for. That doesn't mean that if you're writing a film about a saint that we have to have a personal understanding of their theology and struggle, but it has to be something in that story that resonates with us personally, so that we can honestly tell that story. Because if we are honest in portraying that and putting ourselves in it, then people will feel that honesty, because nobody can be fooled. And I think especially when we mix the art with spirituality, we really have to be careful. That's what I think. That's when I did Man of God, and even with this, I especially with Man of God, because the whole film was about Saint Nektarios. I stayed away from thinking about. I was all thinking about him as a human being and his struggle, and I didn't want to think about spirituality, because I felt that I will fall through a spiritual pride. I was afraid of that, and I stayed away from that, and I think this is a very important thing. So first is the art, and then obviously we have our own spiritual struggles, but it has to be honest. It has to be some kind of deeper reason to why we're doing this. It can be for any kind of self-glorification, or we also have to be very careful to say, oh, I'm doing this to glorify God. That's because, again, it has to come from the heart. It can come I want to glorify God, because that there's a lot of pride in that. I mean, forgive me for saying that, but
No, I think what you're saying is super important. It's true in the spiritual life. When the priest goes to liturgize, he doesn't have some kind of inflated idea about what he's doing. He's not doing really anything except he's putting his hands out, and God does all the things, right? And the deacon says to the bishop before the divine liturgy, "It's time for the Lord to act." And so, you're just telling the story. The Lord has to work through the story into the hearts of the people. It's going to be, and we're just trying to get out of the way. Let the Lord act, like not be in his way. I think that is, so that whole approach of like extreme humility is exactly right. And otherwise it's too much us, and we're in front of God, and we're blocking out the light. Does that make sense? I agree
with you, Father. And I think especially in the filmmaking, I think it has to be, it just happens. You get moved by something, like writing a poem or doing a painting. It has to come from the heart. It has to be honest. And that's when I believe the Holy Spirit, if God is willing, it's his will, would then decide to sprinkle some light and bless it.
Absolutely. Forgive me if this was asked. How may we show this in our local theater? My parish has done this with other Orthodox movies. Thank you.
Local. Yes, I think there is a way. I mean, my husband will be better to answer that question, but there is a way. There are people that can book they can ask the theater to because Fathom Entertainment is releasing the movie, but they're open to release it in local theaters as well. If there is an interest, I think the local theater can reach out to the distributor, and they will be very happy to.
For instance, in Chicago, we have a very good friend of ours who has several theaters, or at least one or two theaters. You must know him.
Dino?
Dino, yeah.
Well, Dino is going to be playing in his theater. It's a Pickwick theater. Definitely, he made a deal with the Fathom, and he's going to be playing the movie. So there is a way of doing it. If there is an interest, I think it's very easy to just reach out to Fathom Entertainment, or if I'm not explaining it, people can reach out to me or to you, Father. I mean, if for something like that, you can pass out a message, and we can make it happen. Yes.
One of the ways that Sound of Freedom did really, really well, if I was told this by the guy who did the distribution for it, is they got churches to basically act as theaters for the first week. I don't know exactly how that worked. I don't know the details of it, but somehow they did. And so they had these evangelical churches all over the country showing it. And I guess that I don't know, did that count as a part of the numbers? I don't know the details at all, but they were definitely, what's that?
That helps, and we already have a couple of I mean, it's very premature still, but we already have a couple of theaters that will be sold out for group screenings.
Nice, beautiful. So the churches can do it. Local churches can go and buy bulk tickets and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, absolutely. How can we get that icon of St. Moses? Somebody wants that icon of St. Moses. I think, what? I was just thinking as you're showing that icon, I was like, we need to get that icon as like somehow people can get a hold of that, or maybe put it on a little booklet, St. Moses the Black, because he's going to become very popular.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to share. I will give it to you, Father, and you can take it from there. But this icon, I'm not the only one who had this icon. You know who else had this icon? Father Moses Berry. When I went to get a blessing from him to do St. Moses the Black, and I showed him the icon, he says, "That's my icon." I'm like, "What do you mean that's your icon?" He says 20 years ago, I have it in my chapel. I will show it to you. It's much bigger than yours. Some lady from Africa sent it to me, but I wasn't sure about it. I did not know if this is because it doesn't look like a usual icon. So I was thinking even maybe to get rid of it, but something made me keep it. But now I know why, because I explained how it happened, who painted it. So because I'm sure Nan Tekla sent it to him as a present 20 years ago, knowing that he was leading the Fellowship of St. Moses the Black in the U.S. So it's interesting. I have the small one, Father Moses Berry, who of
blessed memory. Yes,
he has another one in his in his chapel. So we'll make sure I can send you the. I can scan it and send it, and people
Awesome.
can
Let's do it.
print it. That definitely.
Which cities will this be shown? I don't think you do. You know specific cities? No, there must be many.
Every major city. I mean, there's everywhere there are like
AMC and
AMC, Regal, Cinemark. Yes, it's going to be shown.
Next movie, The Real Saint Nick.
Saint Nicholas.
Saint Nicholas. I mean, he's so. He's
incredible.
Been a lot of documentaries.
That's my slava. I love Saint Nicholas. That's an incredible story. Well, again, I am sure that there are people out there that are writing some good material. They have great ideas, and again, if like anything, when the doors start opening, we'll be able to make those kind of movies. It'll be great.
It'll be a floodgate. The floodgate will open. It'll be a flood. It would be really nice to have a movie about another person, different person saying the same thing about Saint Nicholas that does not depict him as a fat sorcerer who lives in the North Pole with flying reindeer. Will this movie be made?
No, I agree with that 100%.
Yelena, did considering the life of St. Moses change how you personally and viscerally respond to crime and violence in the world? Do you find much hope in this apparently hopeless world?
Well, I have faith in God. I know that everything is possible with God. Yes, we live in a world there is a lot of violence, a lot of bad things out there, terrible stuff, wars, injustices. But I remember Saint Paisius said, "If I did not believe that God existed, I think I would have lost my mind in the world." Yes, so I that's what gives me hope, that I know that He's going to have the last word, and there is life eternal that's awaiting for us. That it's a real life. This is just a preparation. I
mean, why not release the movie in the UK too?
Absolutely. We by the way, the movie will release in Greece for Easter on April 9th. And I'm sure that right after the theatrical release in the US, we're gonna know the dates. We're gonna have it worldwide. That's definite. So we just don't know the dates now exactly for each territory. I know the Greece they decided to release it on April 9th. It doesn't mean that in UK and Germany and other places won't be released before that. But that's the plan. That's gonna happen.
Yelena, I heard rumors about a possible movie, Saint Mary of Egypt, a wonderful saint I think would reach so many women. Is this a true rumor?
I was approached many times about this by different writers, and there are quite a few different scripts floating out there. I also heard that even somebody in Los Angeles was getting hold of Mel Gibson about the story of Saint Mary of Egypt. So I think that would be a great story to be told. I personally don't think that I would write and direct it, but I would, if I were even going to produce it, I would have to oversee that one, because that's a great story, but it has to be done in a very, very special way. We need somebody very talented to undertake that task. So because I prayed to her a lot about it because of the scripts that were coming to me. And I felt that, this was an incredible saint who, I think the story has to be told in a very special way. I don't think she would want the story to be told about her past. I don't know why I'm saying this. This is just something that I got after praying, because I was kind of thinking to help few people to develop the story, and there were, I felt like she told me not to go there. So I think that there should be a movie done about her, but I think the right person with the right script has to appear on that.
So that leads me to a question. When you think about Father Seraphim Rose, how much of his past, which had some pretty sinful moments? How do you deal with that?
But I have a different idea about it. I don't want to reveal.
Okay.
There is a if we want even
Yeah.
that would be the point in his story. His story is
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And I mean, you don't need to. You focus on the redemption. You focus on the fruit of the repentance. Right. That's the key. Yeah. Okay. We have this question from John. I recently published the book "Voice in the Wilderness: Reflections of the Life and Legacy of Father Stephen Rose." How can I send it to you?
Oh, please, you can. I can maybe through you, Father.
Sure.
I will be happy to share my my address in Los Angeles. Yes, or
Yeah, he can send it to me. He can send it to me, and when I see you next,
yes,
that's fine.
Absolutely. It'd be my pleasure.
Father Peter, we need to make more movies that show Muslims converting from Islam to Orthodoxy. This is important. I don't know. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I'm trying to think. That would be a lot of new martyrs during the Turkish period. Lots of martyrs converted to either back or to Christ during the Turkish yoke, and we have many, many martyrs. That would be possible. Or, I mean, there's. Yeah.
I'm sure there are people out there. They're already writing these things, and that's why I'm here to say I believe that there are a lot of great ideas out there, and a film that I think that could touch that, not necessarily converting, but it can play into that, would be about Saint Catherine, because I believe that Muhammad went and visited the Sinai, the monastery of Saint Catherine. The Great. So yeah, there could be an interesting story there, but definitely conversions. I agree that, but that would be, again, there is so much one person can do, but again, that's why it's not about me. It's about all these ideas that everybody has, and people that are already working on stuff, because there are a lot of scripts out there on Saint Mary of Egypt, on Saint George, on there are scripts floating around, that God willing, will be great movies.
Somebody wants to see the icon again. Can you hold it back up?
Of course. Like this.
There you go. That's awesome. There you go. So people can screenshot that and they can check it out.
I can send it to you, Father, so you can.
Okay. Thank you.
We can always make it. We can, into.
Yeah.
An icon,
we could give it to Uncome Out and Supply. They could make an icon if they wanted to, and exactly. We'll see. Will the film be released in Canada? If so, where?
That's a good question. I don't think it's releasing in Canada right away, but it will be released. Definitely, it will be. I think. In the same manner, like with the US, but the date we still don't have it. So as soon as we have it, we can make an announcement.
Caesar says Guju Batha Raw as St. Mary of Egypt. I don't know who that person is. Do you? Do you need that name again? Never heard of that name, but there must be an actress of some.
Maybe. Huh. I don't know.
We'll see. This is, I guess, for me, Father Peter. I desperately want to be a catechumen, but was told to wait to be one for the sake of my spouse. I'm struggling to know how to wait well. Thank you for everything you and Caesar do. It is undoubtedly going to be a difficult struggle, but you're not alone. We get many questions from those who have arrived and their spouses are still on the road or even antithetical. And I think the answer is that there's a couple things. They have to see you being transformed. They have to see you going deeper in repentance and humility. That will be the most impressive witness to them. And this is not going to be some kind of religiosity or some kind of pressure, to do something they're not there yet for. So that patience will also greatly add to your own sanctification. You'll learn how to be deeply prayerful, how to be silent, which is very difficult, which is very good. We speak way too often these days. We speak out of hand. You'll have to learn that conversion happens not with the head as much as with the heart, that they have to have compunction. And so if God is allowing it, it's good for you and your salvation. That doesn't mean you shouldn't make progress spiritually. You shouldn't just wait as if you're neutral. There is no neutrality in the spiritual life. You're either going forward or backwards. So you need to keep going forward. And part of that progress is going to be crucial for her conversion as well. So, and I don't even know if that means you shouldn't become Orthodox. Personally, that's depends. That's a call of the spiritual father. Sometimes it would be better for a man to be a leader and to show that this is what we're going to do. We're going to move ahead. And so it depends. I don't know. I can't tell you in your case, but what's for sure is that if they don't have examples, it's hard for them, especially women. They're not interested a lot in argumentation. Most women are not interested in, theological debate. They're going to want to see relationships. They want to feel the security of having relationships with people who love them. And so part of that will be introducing her and her warming to the community. A lot of that is that insecurity or reluctance to go outside what they already know. So I think there's a lot there to chew on and to help you move ahead, hopefully. God help you. I started going to my first parish 2 weeks ago, and someone there showed me Man of God. It was brilliant. Thanks for your work. I'm a filmmaker. All right. Thanks so much. That's great to hear. Gotta love that, right? That's a great. Why are you not hesitant to show the sinful past of Saint Moses, but you are for Saint Mary and Father Seraphim? That's an interesting question. I don't think you are, though, going deeply into the sinful past. You know what I'm saying?
No. It's just I had a very strong feeling to do a film about Saint Moses. I don't have that with Saint. I'm not the one to do that. That's what I was trying to say. I don't have inclination in my heart to write a film and to direct a film about her. I will not be the one to do that. However, it doesn't mean that somebody who is meant to do this cannot write a phenomenal script and then I won't be part of making the film about her. But I don't have I'm not moved inside to tell a story. And it wasn't, maybe that was misunderstood. So with Saint Moses, I just for some reason was very moved by his story. I don't know. Maybe maybe it's my ancestry, as I said, all the fighters in my family that I maybe it's something in the bloodline. But I don't maybe really I don't understand. I have understanding for how shall I say, for battles, for I'm kind of a warrior type, and things like that. But maybe there's some things I don't have understanding for. Like I'm not. You need somebody who understands that character fully, what they were going through, in order to tell that story truthfully. That's more what I was saying. So it has to be. Like even with Saint Moses, like I happen to do that, but maybe if I wasn't right for it, I would have said I can't do this. That was mainly what I felt, what I wanted to say. So by all means, I am not important here. I'm just a filmmaker, and I do stuff that I feel I'm meant to do. There are things that I don't connect to. I'm not gonna do it for the sake of vanity or believing that I'm supposed to.
And you're showing that part of Saint Moses not in a gratuitous way or in an excessive way. You're not even talking about some of the more
No,
You know, the
absolutely not.
similar
You see
extremes.
just
So
the flashback that
you need
know
it. You need it to a certain degree, but you're going to focus on the repentance, the redemption, and that's like
repentance is what I focus on. Exactly.
you're going to just
Exactly.
you would do the same thing with Father Seraphim Rose. I think, and I think
Yes.
that's really
And
that's a
Saint Mary of
beautiful.
Egypt. Absolutely, and Saint Mary of Egypt.
Yeah.
That's it. I was just saying that I was approached by few. I had few scripts, and it didn't happen. There were also something I didn't want to get negative, but there were some things happening that were problematic, you know, and I wasn't. I was trying to be helpful, and it just there was something wrong with it, and I had a prayer to Saint Mary of Egypt, who I love, and I felt like, and when I realized that maybe I'm supposed to back away from it, then I had a peace in my heart. So maybe I'm not the one. Maybe there's going to be, not maybe, for sure, somebody else who's going to come and do an amazing job on the story of Saint Mary of Egypt. But for some reason, I feel that she is telling me maybe I need to be the one to step away from that story.
Yeah. Let me just say we have a ton of people over on X. I mean, we're at I think like almost 800 people over on X. If you have questions over there, unfortunately, we don't have a way to monitor your questions. I mean, we're not able to do that right now. So if you have questions over there you want to ask, just pop over to YouTube. Anybody can come and watch on YouTube and submit your question on YouTube because we'd love to hear some of your questions because there's, you know, a lot of folks over there who probably have some questions. This is from our Catholic Vibe friend, and she says, would you be willing to make a movie about Western saint venerated in Orthodoxy like Alexius of Rome? I think Alexius, the man of God, isn't it? Not the fool for Christ, but maybe was he also a fool for Christ? I don't remember. The man of God is usually what we call him in Orthodoxy, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't discriminate. I don't like I say, whatever it's God's will.
inspires you.
There's
Yeah,
so
you
many saints out there. They're amazing.
It's
and
endless.
I'm sure that I'm open to anything that it's beautiful and that would inspire people to turn to God.
The Black American experience can have a lot of complexity to it. How was it writing a modern story with this, or did you have to consult people to bring out a more realistic story?
Absolutely, I had people. I worked very closely with my brothers and sisters from West Side of Chicago, from the hood, and they're the ones that ultimately have helped me to write the story in a very real way, and they were the ones that made sure it's in their lingo and that it's very truthful and authentic. So I couldn't have done it without them. I wouldn't even do it. I wasn't able to do this on my own. That would have been.
Yeah, you sent me an interview, Akeem. What was the man he's the one you spoke of earlier, right? That was being interviewed.
Reginald Akeem Berry. He is.
What's his name?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Reginald Akeem Berry Sr. An incredible man who is from the West Side of Chicago. He used to be a gang leader. And was incarcerated for many years, and now he's dedicated his life to helping people getting out of gangs and leading a Christian life. So those are people that they were my consultants, and that without them, I wouldn't be able to tell this story.
Yeah.
Truthfully.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And
because I wouldn't go to the territories, I went in there respectfully asking them if this is something that would help their community, and everybody responded so positively, and they were very happy to help, and they felt that this is very important and it would help their communities.
I bet they're thrilled.
Everybody's thrilled.
Yeah, they probably don't have a ton of movies that are focused on redemption for the Black community in America today. Is there? I mean, it seems like there's so many violent films.
Well, usually people, you know how Hollywood is. They go in and they just make films. It's all about just violence and guns and all that, and and nothing to it. It's just very destructive. And these people, they live very hard lives. You know, people that I worked with, they've lost. in the last 2 years that I worked with them, some of them lost few people in the process, people that were close to them, their cousins, their relatives. They live very difficult, very hard lives, and they're struggling, and they don't want to be in that world. They want to come out, and this is why they're very attracted to the story of Saint Moses. And Saint Moses is a great role model for anybody. And like Father says, it's not just being in the gangs. We all have something that we need to get away from. We all in the bondage of something that God needs. We need God's help to get us out from. So this is for me. I love Saint Moses, even though I'm not in the gangs. But I can tell people that I met so many wonderful people. They have incredible hearts, but they just need help. They need a way, and this is I think that this is going to help a lot of people, and everybody. The Black community is very excited about this.
That's awesome, and I'm excited. I'm excited to start seeing some Black folk from the hood in our churches.
Yes.
That'd be the best possible scenario. I'd love to get all these white folks in America. Let's get some color in the church. That'd be nice.
Well, I hope so. It's
yeah. The church is by nature, in the true sense, universal, and it's shown in the history of the church. And geography and history have undermined in some ways, because of our Turkish period and our enslavement to the in the Middle East to the Muslim yoke, and then to the Bolshevik yoke. Orthodox mission, I think, is just ready to explode. It's going to explode, and because the Western man is spent. He's coming to the end of a long cycle of disintegration, right? And so he's searching. He's desperate for authenticity. And I think of all the people in America who are ready to jump into authentic Christianity, it's the Black community. They want it
because they have suffered. Suffering usually brings you very close to God. I mean,
Yes, and this is from our friend here. That would be nice. I would love to see the Black community embrace Orthodox as a whole. I see a lot of Black converts around me, but it's still widely unknown. Yeah, it is. It's a cultural jump. There's no doubt about it. In some churches, not all. In some churches, it's going to be difficult, but I think that it's going to become less and less problematic, just on a cultural level. The more Orthodox. For some reason, some of our questions are not coming through. I don't know why. That's kind of strange. I never heard that. It didn't come up. And so let me see if we get one or two last questions. I think we're gonna come to the end of the stream here pretty shortly. I want to show as we depart, I'm going to show the trailer again, and then I'm going to be sharing everybody underneath I already did put underneath the video here and all the different live streams ways that they can go to the website and to the trailer. But we'll be doing that going forward, as a part of the whole promotion. We're very excited about it. Any last questions from the crowd here? Anybody from over? Let's see what we got. Two people's questions didn't come through. I'm not really sure what that's all about. Let's see. Coming from mixed African American background, I pray for the baptism of Black America. That's wonderful. I hope this is the beginning of that. I hope this is the beginning. Okay, let's see. Yeah, for some reason, we're not getting their questions, so not sure what we can do about that. Any last thoughts, Yelena? Just anything you like.
I'm just grateful that I'm grateful to God that and to Saint Moses that I was able that I was able to do something that I love doing, and hopefully that I could glorify Him through it. So I want to give glory and thanks to God, and That's all I can say, and I hope that everybody will enjoy the film, and it's gonna bring something good in people's lives.
Yes, wonderful. Well, thanks for joining us. Well, if you can stick around for about a minute, just after we close off, I want to ask you one or two things before we lose you again. Back to wonderful Greece. Are you enjoying yourself? You getting some rest? No.
Yes. Well, it's a lot of work still, but here it's more restful. It's more peaceful.
Yes. It is. We of course, we're there 20 years and miss it many times. Thank God. Oh. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. We're back tomorrow night. As usual, on Thursday, we have the Mystery of Christ. The very last lecture, the very last offering about the kingdom of God. And then we're done with that very long lecture series. I think it was 60 lectures, if I'm not mistaken. And the book is going to be coming out in the near future, The Mystery of Christ, from the fathers on Mount Athos at the Skete of the Resurrection, Elder Euthemios and his fathers, who produced this amazing catechism, 600 pages, all about the person of Christ. That'll be coming out from Uncle Mountain Press, hopefully by Pascha. It's getting edited right now, and then we'll be doing the page layout. We got a ton of books coming out in the next 6 months. Keep us in your prayers. If you can support the work, you can join us and donate to the work over at Uncle Mountain Press or orthodoxitos.com. And just buying the wonderful books that we produce is the best way to support the work, so we can produce more and bring out more books and translate more books. We're supporting several full-time translators. And so when you buy the books that we translate, we're able to go back and reinvest that and buy and translate more and more classic treasures from mainly from Greek, but now we're going from Romania. As I said earlier, we're going to be coming out with the Saints of the Prisons. It's basically like the catacomb saints that Father Seraphim Rose produced for the church in Russia, the New Martyrs of Russia. This is what it is for the Romanian church. A very important book for all of us. And that'll be coming out from Uncle Mountain Press, as well as many other phenomenal titles. So check it out at unclemountainpress.com and sign up at orthodoxethos.com. And thank you so much for joining us. As I said, I'll play the trailer as we go out, and then our usual goodbye, and then we'll see you on tomorrow night. Good night, everybody, and God bless. Thanks so much, Yelena. Thank you,
Father. Thank you.
Great having you.
Well, you're free now. What's stopping you from getting out?
My feet is my feet.
I see Moses the Black.
The saint who was once a gang member.
He was a gangster.
Oh yeah.
The most feared gangster in the land of Egypt at that time.
He who lives by the sword shall die by the sword.
Good luck with that. Everybody know I ain't no rat. If you're gonna choose a battle, tough guy, choose the right one.